The following podcast on the Your Own Pay Podcast Network will contain adult content. Listener discretion is advised. More information about this episode can be found at yourownpay.com. Enjoy the show.
Man, having that audio hijack recording does make it easier to line things up. I don't know if you noticed, but there was a little drift in DM63. It came out fine.
There was a lot of fucking drift, man. There was a lot of fucking drift. You just don't know how much drift there was. Like,
I imagine
the little bit that I left in there. I think it's toward the end. If you're talking about what I'm thinking about, yeah, like it was clean enough that it didn't really screw up anything. But man, it drifted really bad around that part though. Like I basically had to cut out a whole section of my track and then cut a item and get it lined up with you so that we, because the way it started out when I was editing, it was like you were doing the whole, follow us on Twitter, and I was coming in at the end with whatever the hell I said at the end of it, like at the same time. I'm like, yeah, major drift.
Yeah, drift is a real thing we've talked about a couple of times, but we make it through it, and hopefully people are enjoying it. We have had more downloads of 63, though, than we have in other episodes from initial posting, and my posting to that classified site are now automated again, it looks like.
Oh, cool.
Because I went and I looked at the dates, and it looks like right after I paid via PayPal, the post went live. So
excellent.
Awesome things.
Speaking of PayPal, I got some totally unexpected money because I forgot about it in PayPal.
That's nice.
Yeah, wishlist member.
Nice. And that's the thing about those 60-day affiliate programs is by the time you actually get some income from it, it's like, oh yeah, I did make that sale. And you just make a couple of those and you can get a steady flow of cash coming in.
Yeah, the problem is I don't really know if I want to recommend wishlist member all that much, to be honest. It's an okay plugin. Like, it's not a terrible plugin, but I honestly like MemberPress better, I think, as a, starting from scratch with no caveats, I need to figure out a way to make what you already have work. I think MemberPress is slightly better. I do have an affiliate link for them also, though.
So both of those links will be in show notes at yourownpay.com/DM66.
Oh, he got the number right today. He did.
I know.
Have to fix it in editing for it to sound like he got it right.
like we have in the last couple of episodes.
But yeah, MemberPress is wishlist member is cool. I just don't like the way they have chosen to kind of set up their admin area panel. MemberPress, on the other hand, is pretty solid. They actually took over that plugin, Mike, that I used to tell you about all the time. Members, the free one that would let you go in and kind of customize user roles. Wait, you have used that because you made one.
Yeah. I'm using it on one of the sites I'm working with. Well, kind of working with.
Semi-working on.
Yes.
But yeah, I like MemberPress. I actually like it better than the Tips and Tricks guys member plugin too. But I had issues with theirs back in the day because there's like some features that you would just expect to be able to have. It's like it doesn't work that way. And then you reach out to support, and they're like, well, you could hire us to add this. And I was like, I'll just make it work.
Right. I'll just use a different tool and get done what I need to get done through that other tool.
Exactly.
So there was something that I was like, man, this is why we need to write shit down.
But writing shit down sometimes doesn't work either if you don't look at it when you're actually recording either. That doesn't help. Or you write something down and then forget what the hell you were supposed to say about it. What we should do is just start pre-recording what we're going to say about a thing and then just drop it in the show. Like, there it is.
It sounds like something we could get away with possibly doing, but that also that assumes that we have some premonition about what the episode's going to be. Although we could tailor the episode based around the little voice clips that we send to Demasi, and he throws in using loopback, and then all of a sudden we'll start that conversation. Maybe that'll be a new podcast we create in the near future.
Look, I was thinking about like, okay, play this audio clip recorded from JPR, and then we both sit here and discuss what the hell was you thinking when you said that.
at 2:30 in the morning, super quiet, trying not to wake anyone else up. It's like, oh, this is the brilliant idea we have to talk about on DM75. No, but what I wanted to bring up to you is we had some interesting Christmas additions to our family. We talked about this in a previous episode, and I'll link to it at the DM66 show notes, but we ended up with a robot vacuum, and I wanted to share my initial thoughts with this thing, how I like it and whatnot. So I told you probably the day we got it, wasn't it, that we picked that up? Well, that my mother-in-law picked that up for us, because I don't know that I would actually buy one.
Yeah. You told me about it. I think it was like the day after Christmas, me and you talked. You told me about it.
Yeah. So my mother-in-law got us a Eufy Robo vacuum cleaner that has its own charging base. It does not empty itself, but what it does is it putts around the house and it vacuums things up, and we have it set up on a schedule. She was going to get us an iRobot or a Roomba or iRobot Roomba. I think iRobot's who makes the Roomba, but her significant other's daughter actually bought her one of those iRobots for her, for just as a gift. I don't know that it was a Christmas gift. It might have been a birthday gift, because her birthday's in December too. So, anyways, her significant other's daughter bought my mother-in-law one of these, and she's like, "Oh, Michael and Mallory need this. They've got 2 teenage boys most of the time, sometimes 3 boys, and boys are not clean. So maybe I should get them one of these." And she went to get an iRobot, and guess what? They were all sold out. The ones that emptied themselves. And so she picked this up, and we'll have a link at DM66 at youronpay.com/DM66. And it's not super loud. It's also not super quiet. It's just one of those, it's at the level where you can tolerate the noise. It's a disc-like form factor that the bin where all of the stuff it sucks up goes to is in the front of it, and then its charging ports are on its back. It does connect to the A-Lady, and it does connect to Google, and it's got a interesting way of getting around. So it doesn't map the house like some of the other ones does. What it does is you activate it either from the app or using the A-Lady or Google, and you tell it to start cleaning. So it will leave its base, and then it goes in a straight line until it approaches something. And its bin in its front also has some leeway, so it will push against something, and that'll tell the sensors inside the robot, oh, there's something there, so I need to try to turn and go around that thing and keep going in a straight line. And then when it cannot determine if there's further that it can go, it seems to turn itself around and go back in the opposite direction. So it goes. It does go very slow, which is fine, and it does do things pretty independently. Every once in a while to get stuck, or we named it the Avenger, and my favorite notification to get on the Eufy app is RoboVac the Avengers, cleaning brushes are stuck, and then right after that it says RoboVac the Avenger is on a cliff or an edge or something that it's going to fall off of, or something like that. And I'm like, that is hilarious. And literally, it's on a carpet that's like 2 inches tall, not even 2 inches tall, but it thinks it's an edge or a cliff or something. I don't think it says cliff, but that's what I think of. It says it's on the edge and it's about to fall, and then it says to help RoboVac. So I like it. It's pretty entertaining. We've set it up on a schedule to start cleaning at 8 p.m. I typically will run RoboVac one time during the day before that, and it will run for about 100 minutes with its standard suction option selected. You can do 2 different options as well, which will reduce the battery time. And then the last thing that mainly Nicholas, Ben and Andrew could care less about it, but Nicholas loves to tell the A-Lady to say, hey, tell RoboVac to go home. And then it makes a beep sound, and then it turns its suction off, and it goes and finds its home, backs right up to it, and starts charging. So it's a pretty cool thing to have around. If you have dogs that have accidents in the house, I don't recommend it. Or if you use it in a separate area from where those dogs are, then that's good. But yeah, I'm pretty satisfied with it. It does come with some additional brushes that it can use. So what it does is it has this little, it's a 3-part wire brush. It's not actually wire, but it reminds me of like a little broom, a tiny little broom. And that spins, which pushes debris underneath it, which then it sucks up. And so it's pretty convenient. You don't realize how much hair is in your house until you run one of these. And you're like, man, you got that much hair off the floor? And it's been that way for the last week. So that's kind of nice, I guess. But yeah, that's our experiences with the RoboVac by UV Home.
So how's the accessibility of the app? And what is
So it's completely usable. Some of the buttons have some weird labels about them, but if you're slowing down and you're actually paying attention, that's pretty usable, and you can click everything. I don't remember. I think Mallory actually set up the schedule, so I don't remember if that process is accessible. But the biggest thing is that the sign up process is accessible. And if you have one of these other assistants in your house, or if you get the Google Assistant or the A-Lady on your phone and you connect the skill to the UV or Eufy app itself, then you can control it all via your voice. So that does give it that added benefit as well.
And that was going to be my other question is I'm assuming you connected it to Google Home?
No.
I guess I should not make that assumption because you use Alexa also. Yeah, I was curious. I don't know anything about the schedule. I don't know anything about the A-Ladies setup. I was thinking about, I wonder if it would show up as a device inside of the Google Home app.
It should, I think. I don't actually know that. That's interesting. Maybe I will play with that. But yeah, it shows up as a device with once you connect it, you can say, "Hey lady, tell RoboVac to start cleaning," or "Tell RoboVac to go home." One thing you cannot do that we haven't figured out is to say, "Hey lady, tell the Avenger to start cleaning." It has to say "Tell RoboVac." So that's disconcerting, I guess. Not disconcerting. That's an inconvenience.
It's not as fun.
Pull that name over. It's not as fun too. Like if I had 2 of these, how would it know which one to tell to start cleaning, or does it have both of them start cleaning?
Then there becomes a battle. Yes. I was cleaning this spot first.
It'd be like automated bumper cars. So
that is cool, man. That is cool. Yeah, I've been playing a lot more with Google Home since I got the Google Wi-Fi and we set up the home device. What is it called now? The Google Nest Hub. Yeah. Been playing with that a little bit more. The Nest Hub has really gotten interesting now because you have a lot more third-party services you're able to connect. So like we have Apple Music connected to it. And yeah, finally, man, because it was getting so tedious. And I don't really use it all that much, honestly, but like Tia would come to me every couple of months and like, how do I play music on the home, Google Home, on the Google? It's like, you're going to have to just connect to it as a Bluetooth speaker. That's the only thing I can tell you.
Yep. But now can you ask Google to play specific songs, or have you guys played with that much?
Yeah, it works just like that. So it is, you can say, hey G, play, such and such song. And if you set, my experience at least has been that I've set it so that Apple Music is the default music app. So it will automatically go play it in Apple Music. Go play it from Apple Music. Which is cool. It was a fun thing to do over Christmas, playing Christmas songs for the kids. And they got into the whole deal and they would go in there and say, hey, play, such and such. And of course, they don't get the name of the song right. And it's like, I can't do that. But you can also connect some streaming services as well. So I know Disney Plus is one of those. I believe Hulu and Netflix are also included there. So, you know, because it has a screen on it, you actually have the ability to stream some of the streaming services directly to it. So I connected Disney Plus. I don't have Hulu active at the moment. So play some stuff for the kids that way as well. And they are pretty good at going in there and telling them to play something in Disney Plus.
And they watch it on the screen, or
Yes.
do they cast that to a different
Nah, they
device?
sit there and watch it on the screen in the kitchen. You can't have it.
Man, I couldn't imagine.
Yeah, but you can't have it cast. Like if we had the Chromecast hooked up to the television, you could also use it to cast content to a different device. I've been meaning to pull out my old Chromecast audio and see if that would work. If it would see that and, you know, have it connected to a speaker, and would it let me cast audio over there? But it's been an interesting experience. So spending, you know, a good bit of time inside of the Google Home app, figuring stuff out, figuring out that it is really bad. Don't make the move of setting up a Google Home or any Google Home type device using your G Suite account, because you're going to eventually run into some pain points that are going to hurt.
So, have you played much with the back tap shortcut for using Google Assistant or connecting Google Assistant to Siri, or not with your current device?
I have not done that yet. That is the thing I'm going to do. I think now I'm going to wait because we just purchased Tia a new iPhone 12 Pro Max. Jeez, that's a lot to say for a freaking phone.
It is.
So when that arrives, I am going to take her iPhone XR that she's currently using. And most likely I'm going to set that up from scratch, even though I just kind of went through that process. But I haven't really gotten out of that process yet. Like there's so much about my whole setup. Like I have the apps I need to have on my phone, so I'm fine there. But I haven't done any of the major setting up that I needed to do. Anyway, it's kind of piecemeal. Like, oh, this is broken. Let me fix that. Let me change this, etc. So I'm probably going to set her phone up from scratch when I get it. And then I will most definitely go through and set up stuff like because that is the thing I want to do since I have the Google Home and Google Wi-Fi, all this stuff. It looks like I'm in the Google Home now instead of, you know, Siri Home, but, you know, whatever.
Right.
So, yeah, definitely going to set up the assistant to use that back tap gesture to trigger the assistant.
Sweet. That's exciting because I'm interested in how that experience goes. For you, because right now my device is definitely not something I can rely on for that.
Yeah, man, you know, so you get Mallory a new phone and you get to take her current phone.
Yeah, we've.
Is that not the reverse of what most of the guys? Well, I've heard a couple of females say the same thing too. But you know, like typically the technical minded person in the family usually gets the new thing and then has the old thing down to the spouse or whatever. Significant other, but we're doing the total opposite. It's like I'm gonna get you the new thing and then I'll take your old thing. What does that say about the state of the world?
Right.
But I don't really have a need for a new phone, honestly. And at least in my case, and I'm guessing probably similar for you as well. Like the benefits of the newer phone mostly are like camera features. I don't take pictures. Tia takes all the pictures, so. You know, she gets to do that and use all of that. Like, it doesn't make sense for me to be walking around with the best camera in the house when I don't, you know, ever open it up to take a picture. And I'm coming from an 8 going to a 10R, so I will now finally have the opportunity to truly experience Apple's Face ID. I've had a year with Google's, which is interesting. It works most of the time.
Most of the time when you're not wearing a mask.
Yeah, well, that's going to be a thing to get used to, right? But, you know, I don't hardly ever go anywhere. When I do have a mask on, but when I don't hardly go anywhere. And when I do, I think it's rare that I have to pull my phone out. Although, I'll have to think about that. I would have bought a new phone for me if they would have put the freaking Touch ID in the button like they did on the on the iPad Air this year. I suspect we might see that later, see that this year in the new phones, the iPhone 13 or whatever they call it. Maybe this year they kill off the numbers and it's just the iPhone. everybody says 13 is bad luck. And if you used iOS 13, you probably agree with that.
Yes. I jumped over the iOS 13 adventure.
You managed to jump completely over that because let's see, you was on Android for the whole time that it was released, and then when you started coming back and playing with iOS again, you jumped on the 14 beta. So yeah, you missed the entire thing.
Yep.
Smart move. Wish I'd have thought of that. Like, I will switch to Android this year. I thought about it about halfway through. Like, I should switch to Android because this is terrible.
How is your Android experience going? You've been using it off and on, haven't you?
Yeah, I still been using it off and on. I ended up not doing it. But I almost bought a new Android phone because I'm actually taking the Pixel. What is this? Pixel 4? Pixel 4. I'm going to send the Pixel 4 to my mother because she needs to keep her Android phone. I almost bought a new Android phone. There was a deal going with Google Fi. One, I got an email from Google Fi. I was like, hey, using this coupon, you can get $100 worth of credit or something like that. And I was like, hey, sweet. I could use Google Fi for a little while. And as I'm browsing to Google, because I was just going to set up a number and just pay whatever the initial cost was up front to get it going, and then just have like a Fi number to play around with. So they had this deal on Google Fi. And as I'm looking on the Google Fi website, I saw a thing that says, hey, get $200 off with new service the cost of a Motorola something. I was like the Motorola X or Motorola X1 or something like that. It's like a $250 phone. So I was like, pay $49 and get this Android phone, and okay, that might be cool. And then it looked like it didn't want to actually give me my discount at the end. So I was like, I don't really feel like fighting with it because I probably really don't need to spend the $49 that it costs plus whatever the tax is to get the device anyway. I don't need to spend $100 on this. What the hell am I doing? But they almost had me. If they would have just let everything just sail through all smoothly, I would have spent it and be like, I probably really shouldn't have done that. But I would have done it. But yeah, Google Android has been interesting. I'm actually at the point now I need to wipe this Pixel so I can ship it to my mother sooner rather than later. But it's been fun. It has been helpful. I've been actually playing around quite a bit with it. And one of the reasons I was actually thinking about it, not just to have two phones, because I don't really need two phones, is that there are some features that are, more straightforward or probably enhanced by having an Android phone with dealing with Google Home stuff. Is one of the things I was thinking about. And possibly setting it up as like some sort of, home remote kit deal thing. I hadn't really thought it all the way out. I would have figured it out after I bought the phone. But I decided I could probably better spend the money that I would have paid for the remainder of the balance and the taxes for a phone and phone service and all of that by getting me a Raspberry Pi.
Oh, so you're getting one of those, huh?
Yeah, at some point. I haven't made an order yet, but yeah, that is probably going to be the next purchase that I make. For me, will most likely be a Raspberry Pi. So sometime in the coming weeks, I will go order one.
I like that transition there because I know what's coming next.
Yeah, man. We are professionals at this, I tell you. We know what we're doing. Sometimes.
Yeah, sometimes.
So, Mike, you got the boys some kind of. Did you figure out what it is you got the boys for Christmas?
No, I should log into Mallory's account, but we got them a maker kit of some sort. Maker, for those who don't know, is this new-ish, not too super new trend where people are actually taking equipment and making things out of them. So what we got them is this kit to make robots, little robots that can move around, and that's pretty much all they do. I envision them as like robotic remote control cars. You can use, I think it's Scratch. It might be a different one, but it's a visual programming language to program the robots. And then they build the robots and then connect it to the Scratch or whatever tool it is and use that to be able to build it out. And so we got them that, but I just picked myself up a Raspberry Pi 4B Canoe. How do you say that name, or do we just want to link it?
We will just link to the name of this company. It's like CanaKit.
CanaKit.
Like that.
That's, I think, how you say it. Yeah.
So you got the Raspberry Pi 4B. You get the 4 or the 8 gig. Yeah, that's the one I'm going to most likely get to.
And then we picked up a 128 gig SanDisk SSD card, or SD card, not SSD. I'm thinking a solid state, but a 128 gig SD card, which you do not need something that big for Raspberry Pi projects. I'm thinking future proof and or moving content over, or using it if Mallory has her way, which she probably will, using it to set up an older Raspberry Pi, because I envision that more of these will show up in my house in the next couple of weeks. But using it to store video on, because you can make your own personal security system or camera system and use the 12 megapixel camera kit that you can buy for the Raspberry Pi, and then just store the videos locally. And so that 128 SD card will be used. I probably only need 8 or 16 gigs for the projects I want to work on. But there's a few different things that I've thought about the Raspberry Pi 4 for playing around with PBX systems. And then this ham radio hobby that I started my official adventures in July has taken me down the path of, well, I could do this with a Raspberry Pi and my radio too. So maybe I should experiment with that. So that's been fun.
Yeah, I have a couple of projects I want to do. Like you, I think once I get the first one and actually get to tinker with it and try out a couple of different things, there will be more of them that show up. Some of them, the cheaper versions, like maybe the older model or smaller RAM. Because some things, a lot of things you run on the Raspberry Pi don't really require 8 gigs of RAM. They only require 4 gigs of RAM.
Right.
And there are people still buying the original Pi Zero to do very small things with.
And those come in at $20 for a Pi Zero. You can get one of those for, I think it's $18.50 or something like that. It's under $20, and the Raspberry Pi Zero will be sold through 2026. So it's not like something that's going to lose all of its support.
Right. Is that with the kit for like $20? Oh, just the board. I saw the board somewhere for $10.
Yeah, just the board.
Yeah, really? I think it might have been on the Raspberry Pi or linked off of the Raspberry Pi Foundation's website. I saw it for $10.
Very well could be. So, but needless to say, especially for little projects, those only have 512 megs of RAM, though. Just keep that in mind. For little projects.
Yeah, but say you want to set up like your own, you want to set up a DNS server in your house because your router doesn't let you do exactly what you want to do. Like that, that's, a smallish project that you could do.
Right. Because you're not going to have a million people running DNS queries on Raspberry Pi. It's going to be 10, maybe 15 devices.
Right. Or if you want to set up like the Pi hole, I forget exactly what it's.
To get rid of ads.
Yeah. That's what it does. I was trying to think of what you would call it, what you call it. But yeah, it did, help block ads on network wide. So anybody on your network is getting ads blocked and you're not paying for, some app or service to do the same thing for you. Like there's some interesting smaller things. I would imagine probably maybe not the Pi Zero, but maybe like the,
probably the Pi 3 is what I mean.
Yeah, I was going to say like the Pi 3, which
older,
is $25-$35.
Yeah.
Set that up for the home security system as well. Because that's what I was thinking about. I really want to play with one because building out my own home security system with a Pi at the core of that, one ultimately probably would be cheaper than trying to buy something, specific from a manufacturer. And I can add on what I want to add on, right? Like if I need sensors, I can pick up sensors. Their camera kit for the Raspberry Pi is like $40-$50.
Yeah. Yeah, it's under $50. I don't remember exactly how much it is, but Mallory's got one in her cart from Amazon. As she wasn't, so she went to me and said, "Hey, can we look at a security system? I'd feel better with one." And I'm like, "Yeah, we can, but I got to do some research, see what's accessible." Whereas with this instance, if we build it out ourselves, we can use the tools necessary to make it as accessible as we want. But I also understand that there's listeners out there that don't want to tinker around.
Right.
For your mindset, my mindset, and apparently her mindset too. That's gonna be the path we go down. And you could use I have a link. I'll link to it at yourownpay.com/DM66 to, I think it's 42 different Raspberry Pi projects.
Oh yeah. You sent me that link. I hadn't looked at it yet. Yeah.
So like you can set up a laser line trip sensor. So if you have a laser light, you can set it up so that will activate the Raspberry Pi. So you can put those in different places. And then you can combine a couple of those projects to make a robust security system, and it not cost you $300, which is what some of the systems we're looking at would cost. And then for your alerting service, because someone's probably out there saying, well, how would I get alerted if I'm away from home? You connect that to something like S3 to store your videos, or Twilio to send your text messages, or give you an automated phone call to tell you, hey, something's going on. Like the possibilities are extremely robust.
Yeah, I mean, it's just like you said, it's not for everybody. Not everybody's going to want to tinker, has the patience or the curiosity to try to, build this thing. But for me, it's like, that is kind of exactly what I like. When I first heard about the camera kit, the little camera they introduced, I was like, well, I think you solved my problem right there. I just got to buy it and put it together with it. Yeah, I think I like this a whole lot more than, say paying, like you said, $300 for a kit, and then you don't get everything that you actually wanted because you're missing a couple of sensors that you need to also buy. Then you're paying the monitoring service and
getting yourself suckered into a contract.
Yeah.
Well, then that's your life gone, all to a security system.
Yeah. Whereas you build it yourself, and then, like you said, you're able to kind of tailor it to exactly what you need, right? So if you just need, some simple, triggers, if a window breaks, here's some sensors for that. Here's a laser. The laser thing sounds cool. It's like, oh yeah. So
yeah. If a boy opens the refrigerator past 10 p.m., send me a text message.
This is exactly what I was thinking about when I was like, that laser thing sounds kind of cool though. Cause it's like, my daughter likes to go in the kitchen when nobody's anywhere near the kitchen, and go in there and just take stuff out and start eating it. It's like, aha. She's like, oh, so you're in the kitchen, you're in the refrigerator now, huh? I see you. I heard you. I know you're there.
Right. Yeah, it's going to be an exciting project. I got a GD77 radio too recently. I think I got it. It came in Saturday. It's supposed to be here Sunday. But that's so those who don't know, a GD77 is a dual band, 70 centimeter, 2 meter ham radio. And it's what I use to talk to local people and access a couple different repeaters. And number one, when I first started talking about the Raspberry Pi, Chip, who is the local ham radio chapter president, KE7ADD, he told me, he said, Michael, it's going to be a couple of weeks. I will see you when you come out of that rabbit hole once you get the Raspberry Pi. And that was before I actually bought it. But then I started doing some research. I'm like, man, that man is not wrong. It could very well become a rabbit hole that I fall down and not come out of for a little while because of all the different things you can do with it. But this GD77 is picked it up for $65. And there's some software out there. Again, I'll link to it. That's called the OpenGD77 software. And what you can do is you flash the software to your radio, and it takes not completely, because there's tactile buttons and little beeps and stuff that you can hear, but it takes a mostly inaccessible radio, and you can flash the software to it, and it's fully accessible, sub $75, and the software is free and being actively developed. So that started me in my tinkering adventures, getting involved in ham radio, and then taking things to the next level. So that's been my adventure, because I've had a cheap radio for like $30, Baofan radio, that does the same thing. It talks to you, but it doesn't read everything, and it's got a weird accent, and it's very difficult to understand. I went to a local radio that someone gave me that has buttons. Well, he sold it to me, but it has buttons, but the dial to program it doesn't stop at each end. So you never know exactly where you are without sighted assistance. To this third radio that I can independently program from the computer or from the keypad if I need to. And, I could have just gave up on the first radio and said, oh, well, this is the best that I have. Whereas now I'm tinkering around with this, and I'm probably not going to go spend $500 on a Kenwood radio that talks to me when I can do it for under $100. And all I had to do was some basically just follow some basic directions. And that's really what the Raspberry Pi comes down to is, other people have done what you probably want to do.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're willing to follow some directions and do some basic troubleshooting, then you can do those projects too.
And look, man, I am excited about a Pi because, there's things like Homebridge that I will most likely end up buying a Pi for. I haven't looked it up yet, but I'm curious if there's a way to do a similar thing with products that are not in the Google or Amazon ecosystem directly, but most stuff seems to be, so maybe not. But Homebridge, for people listening, is a open source software. There's a couple of other versions of this out there that have been built on top of Homebridge at this point, but Homebridge is the original kind of open source base of this. That allows you can run it on any device. You can run it on a Mac, you can run it on a Linux machine, you can run it on a Raspberry Pi. You might be able to run it on Windows, I'm not sure. But what it allows you to do is bring into your HomeKit environment things that aren't natively supported by HomeKit. And that's done by way of plugins. So let's say the Wise lineup of products, for example, are not HomeKit compatible. Well, using Homebridge, you could install the plugin for the Wise stuff, connect Wise up the way it needs to be connected, and then now it is in Homebridge, which bridges, that's where the name comes from, bridges that connection over into HomeKit. So now you can address those devices with Siri, see and control and group them and all of those things inside of the Home app, etc. That was the first thing that was the first project I heard about that was like, oh, I should really look at a Raspberry Pi for this, because one of my holdups on really doing any kind of smart home stuff is the fact I don't want 17 hubs in my house for each, all these different companies, a Logitech hub and a Hue hub. And, I don't want all these freaking hubs. I ain't got all these connections anyway. I got to go buy a switch just to plug in the hubs. And I really wanted, because like I'm comfortable going across platform. I have no problem whatsoever. But my family is Apple. The kids got iPads, kids got iPhone, Apple Watch, all that. So they're gonna mostly talk to Siri. It actually was surprising to me how much she uses the Nest Hub. But she literally depends on the Nest Hub. Like that's her timers and all of that stuff in the kitchen. And it kept me from having to, one, necessarily go buy a HomePod back then. And it also saved me the headache of having to explain to her, like I said, I bought this HomePod for $300. And I set it up so you can use it, but you can only set one timer at a time. Now that has since, changed as a problem. But when it initially came out, if you said, hey, S lady, set a timer for 30 minutes, that's your timer until you're done. Right. Whereas with Google, when we first got the Nest Hub, when it was still actually called Home Hub, you could say, hey, G, set my bread timer for 10 minutes. And, 5 minutes later, hey, G, set my lasagna timer for 45 minutes. Right. This was not, you could also do this with Alexa for the people, screaming like, well, the A lady. Yeah, I know. I don't want an Alexa in my house, though, to be honest. I'm not really a big fan of Alexa. But
you could not do that with the HomePod when you were first looking at it.
You could not do that it was only recently. I want to say it was possibly with the release of iOS 13 or sometime during that release cycle is when it got that capability. And look, $350. Yes, I oftentimes myself see them on sale for like $250, $200, but it's just a speaker.
And yes, he could get a HomePod Mini, but why when he already has a Google Nest Hub in the kitchen? And the family is already comfortable with using that device, and it does everything you need to, right?
It does. Like it does. So I will most likely start buying stuff. But Homebridge is what really kind of was like, oh, there's a thing that I would actually sit down, and I know for certain if I bought a Raspberry Pi, I would sit down and set that up, because I would need that if I want to start being able to control lights and thermostats and things of that nature. Because one of the things I really do want to buy as a smart home product is a thermostat. I will drop a link in the show notes at yourownpay.com/DM66 to one that I'm interested in. I have not yet bought it, but I will drop a link to it simply because I like it. One, it was under $100 when I last looked at it. It is from a company that has been doing in the business of making, AV. Wait, is that the right? No. AV makes me think audio, video. Yeah, there you go. Thanks, Mike. That's what I was looking for. HVAC stuff for years, and they have primarily been a seller. Their main company has been a seller to big industry for HVAC stuff. This is a consumer grade thermostat. It does have buttons. It does have an app. It has Wi-Fi, and it is sounds pretty nice. And the person who I heard about it from was Steve Gibson on the Security Now podcast, who is or has been for a while seriously averse to any kind of smart home stuff that's going to go back yakking to some other company over the cloud. He liked it. I went and looked at the specs of it, and I'm like, yeah, I like that. There are two versions. The one I'm going to link to is the one that actually has buttons. There's a newer version that still has the Wi-Fi and all of that, but it also has touch buttons, which I don't want. And like the Nest thermostats and the Echo Bees, the newer version will show you, like temperature stuff on the actual thermostat, like, visual representation, not just, hey, it's 50 degrees here. That would be cold. But I will link to it in the show notes. It is interesting to me. I think it has integration with all of the assistants. I know it has A and G. I think there's some specifics you have to meet with the wiring for it to work with the S lady. But mostly I just want a thermostat that I can control, because the one I have now, there's buttons, and I can turn the temperature up, I can turn the temperature down, I can turn on the air, I can turn on the heat. I have no idea what the hell the temperature is set to. So if it's colder here, I turn on the heat and I turn that shit up until the heater comes on, and then eventually it's not cold, and then I go, and when it gets too hot, I go in there and I turn the heat down. But I'm jumping around too much. One of the advantages of a smart dealie is, for me, I can't really sleep when I'm hot. Now, I do have kids, and I have to think about this. Just because I'm hot doesn't mean the kids are hot. But one of the nice things about a smart thermostat, the majority of them that I have ever looked at, period, give you the ability to set at least a simple schedule. If it's not anything complex, it can be a simple schedule. Turn off the heat at this time, turn the heat back on at this time. So by the time everybody gets out of bed, it's not freezing in here because your daddy was, about to die from the heat at 3:00 in the morning, just went in there and turned that shit off. You wake up to go do school, and it's freezing.
Right.
But the Pi is super interesting. We will definitely be circling back around to this topic, probably several times over 2021, because there's so much to do, so much that you can do. An idea that I have had, Mike, and I will float it out here now, is that some of the things that can be done with a Raspberry Pi, true, I understand a lot of people don't have the inclination to go fiddle with all of that. One possible, sideline of business would be for some things, pre-configured Pis that you ship to someone.
Right.
Then all they have to do is just get it on the network. They do come with Ethernet, or all of the newer models, the 4, the Series 3, I think the Series 2 even, come with Ethernet ports. So, you plug in, you got USB ports. Another thing I'm interested in doing with it too is like a media server, setting up Plex and running that off of a Pi.
And they're powered via USB. Well, the 4 is powered via USB-C.
USB-C. Yay for USB-C.
Yes. So that's exciting. And, there's a company, I don't remember the name of it, but I will try to get show notes out there, that does just that. There's a few companies that do just that in the ham radio arena, where they configure it. This company will, if you give them your details, which I'm not sure if I'm comfortable with that, but they'll even configure your SSID and your password into it before they ship it to you. And then they'll ship it to you and it's ready to go. It has a receiver inside of it. And then you can use that to get onto like the D-Star network or to get onto DMR. That it requires you taking an analog signal and turning that into a digital signal to send over the internet to make your own personal hotspot is what it's called. It's like your own personal repeater. But there's that type of business out there because you're right. There's people who would like the things that you can create with a Raspberry Pi, would like the price of that Raspberry Pi, but don't want to deal with the effort of actually putting it together. So I think you're going somewhere with that.
Yeah, the idea sparked for me when I was chatting with a friend of mine who is, he likes technology stuff, but he's not going to go screw around with the terminal and setting up a Pi, because I think a lot of the configuration, at least from a blind person's perspective, will be for me. Well, I'm not going to even say that. I will say for me, a lot of, setting up, configuring of the Pi will be done through terminal, right? Connecting to the Raspberry Pi on my network from my Mac. You can plug up a monitor and a keyboard and a mouse and use, Linux or even Windows 10, I hear, can be.
Yeah, it does look like, just as a quick side note, that you do have to connect a mouse and keyboard for initial setup, but after that you can use SSH to connect to it.
So here's the thing you can do. Have to get the exact instructions for this, but if you drop a specific file onto the SD card before you put it into the Pi that automatically configures SSH, you get to bypass that whole step.
Ooh. See? We'll have more notes at yourownpay.com/DM66 because we're all learning something new.
Yeah, man. So, talking with him, we were kicking around the idea of like the media center. And actually, the reason I didn't buy a Pi back this last summer is because I heard, as it was actually in my cart, on Amazon or eBay.
Yep, we talked about that.
And then I heard, they're coming out with an 8 gig version of this. I was like, well, hold on. Let's wait on that one. Because I think probably trying to run Plex with an external hard drive plugged into it, it might require that 8 gigs around. Let's kick that back and wait on that for a second. But he was wanting a similar setup. Like he wanted Homebridge is actually what he wanted set up. And one at the time, he didn't have a Mac. He didn't even have a computer, right? His household has gone all iOS, right? So iPad, iPhone for everything. There's no computer in the house. There is now, but there wasn't back then. So the idea was, kicked around like, well, man, if you buy the Pi, send it to me. I'll set it up for you. I'll probably take me a couple of weeks because I'm going to have to tinker with it and make sure everything works and test it out. But once I know exactly this configuration works, I did not think about the whole plug in your SSID for you. And so when you get it, it's already on your network. I didn't even think about that.
Right.
But I'll configure it, get everything set up, make sure it works, and then, get it to a state where all you basically need to do is go plug it in to your network.
And putting your Wi-Fi network details.
Yeah.
Or I was going to say plug it via Ethernet.
Then he doesn't even have to bother with trying to go deal with, and me being the type of person I am, I just was like, I don't want anybody's password to their shit. Like I wouldn't have been a problem getting it. It just didn't occur to me because that's not how my mind works. It's like, I'll let you deal with that part of it.
Right.
So just plug it in Ethernet, get it plugged up, get it on, and then probably with a little bit of help from me, just kind of telling him like, okay, so go here, do this. Now you should be good to go. And that conversation sparked because the Homebridge folks had recently at that time released a version of Homebridge that had a GUI attached to it now, because everything for Homebridge used to be command line only prior to that. And that's kind of what started the idea. I never bought the Pi because, the 8 gig model came out. Then I got busy, and I, like the guy Chip told you, like, I'm probably gonna lose about 2 weeks. So
right. So I don't got time to get this now because not only does it cost money, but it's going to cost,
which also cost me money. So I was like,
yes.
Can you help out with this part? No. Raspberry Pi. You're eating Raspberry Pi?
Right.
Nope, I'm building one right now. Hold on. I'm building a robot for my son because he figured out, he found on YouTube somebody made a Raspberry Pi robot, and now he wants me to make him a remote control robot with a Raspberry Pi.
Now, is that real? Or is that something you're afraid would happen?
I think that
Lincoln looking on YouTube.
Lincoln finding something on YouTube, that might be a little bit of a stretch at this particular point, mostly because I blocked YouTube. And I blocked YouTube. Well, I blocked YouTube on their iPads because my daughter was watching some stupid videos, and I can't police her enough to make sure she's not watching them. And she also, because she's a kid and it's funny and fascinating to her, doesn't understand why I don't want her to watch them. I think it demonstrates bad behavior, and she's not able to grasp the subtleness. I think they're a little too subtle for a kid without a parent there to watch it with them. They're a little too subtle in this is bad behavior. Now let's talk about the good behavior, how you should act. Like she's and because she's a kid, she's like, oh, that looks like it's fun. I'm gonna run around and do that too. It's like, yeah, but you totally missed the point. I don't like the videos. They're stupid. So I don't want to sit there and watch them with you. We're trying to have that conversation either. So I'll just block them for right now. Probably not the best parenting advice out there, but yeah, that's what I did. I pay for Disney Plus. Go watch the mouse.
Right? Go watch Disney Plus on the Nest Home Hub.
Click YouTube. But no, I do believe that it is possible to set up, remote controlled devices using a Raspberry Pi. So yeah, you can make a robot or a car. Like a car would be cool. I could make a remote control car. I don't know. See, there's the possibilities are in
make
this.
A Power Wheel car. They are, and that's what I know. At a certain period of time, the Raspberry Pi overwhelmed me with the possibilities. But now that I have a couple of ideas of things I want to do, I'm glad we picked one up. And I'm afraid I probably won't be able to play with it, at least for a little bit, because, well, that's how it works in my family. So.
Oh, no. Mallory's going to, this will be interesting.
Yes. Well, and now my stupid new work schedule. I mean, now my work schedule that I am not too thrilled with means that it'll only be my Tuesday when it comes in. So I'm not going to be able to play with it. I can already tell you that. She's going to be playing with stuff right away. Probably going to put it together is probably what's going to happen. And I just checked the tracking. Man, using a keyboard on iOS is super nice. You already know this. But anyways, I just checked the tracking of the Raspberry Pi, and it is in transit at this time, set to be delivered on Saturday. So,
I have discovered some things about Mike's wife over the past couple of weeks that have been just fascinating, because I always assumed their relationship was more like me and Tia's, where she's vaguely interested in technology but not really. Like, Tia's not going to go screw around with a Raspberry Pi. That I can almost guarantee. Well, unless I found something that she really wanted to do, she probably would. But
yes.
Mallory is like, oh no, you idiot, you put this over here on this screen. Why would you put that on your home screen? It's like, oh, okay, that changed the whole conversation for a second. And then now it's Mallory driving the whole Raspberry Pi conversation. It's like, oh my God, what's going on? I might have to stop doing the show with Mike and start doing the show with Mallory, because I don't know, man. Mike is losing his touch, with that man. One. You got to work and all this. Me and Mallory just start doing the show.
Yeah. It'll be, you could still call it the DM show.
Yeah. Well, you got to change the show title or nothing.
Oh, I think that's all I have this week. Do you have anything else you want to mention?
Not really. I didn't get much of interest over Christmas. I picked up a new keyboard, which is amazing, because I can sit here at the Mac and do exactly what Mike is doing, except it only takes me one keyboard. I can just switch.
I think this keyboard, I need to look into it. I think I can connect to multiple devices, but I'm not 100% sure. And as I said on my Calico segment, Mallory bought me this keyboard and said, I don't know if you're going to stick with using a keyboard, so I didn't spend a lot of money. If you're interested in this, then we can go buy something more expensive. And I'm like, good thinking. I like it.
That was good thinking. I mean, that's how I started with Bluetooth keyboards a long time ago on iOS. Specifically I bought a cheap one because I was like, I like it. It may be stupid. I may not use it, right? Like, I think I'm going to use it, but then am I really going to carry a keyboard around? And then ultimately I ended up doing so.
Right.
Yeah, it's nice having a Bluetooth keyboard on iOS at times. And I
sometimes you get frustrated with it, like when VoiceOver gets stuck in the address bar and you can't get it out of there.
Yeah, you have to reach over and tap the phone.
You have to pull your phone out to touch the middle of the screen to get VoiceOver focus back into the website.
Yep, that is a thing. It is a thing.
So we appreciate everyone's feedback that they give us when they give it to us, mainly on Twitter through direct messages and replies. You can reach out to him on Twitter at Damashe, Damashe. I'm at Payon, Payown, and show notes and more information can be found at
yourownpay.com/DM66.
You've been listening to Your Own Pay Podcast. If you've enjoyed today's episode, visit yourownpay.com/cast for exclusive content and to contact us today. We're eager to hear your thoughts and about how you're making this podcast your own. Thanks for listening. We'll be back soon. The Your Own Pay Podcast, yourownpay.com.